Chris Bullard is a native of Jacksonville, Florida. He lives in Collinswood, New Jersey, and works for the federal government as an administrative law judge. He received his BA from the University of Pennsylvania and his MFA from Wilkes University. Plan B Press published his chapbook, You Must Not Know Too Much, in 2009. Big Table Publishing published his second chapbook, Oh Brilliant Kids, in 2011. WordTech Editions has accepted his book of poetry, Back, for publication in November of 2013. Please welcome Chris.
By the way, one of my chapbooks is available on the green table in the back at a modest price. And should you purchase a copy, I will be glad to sign it. In fact, that's the only way to make sure I know that you paid for it. So, approach me with it after the reading. I'd like to start my reading with a poem, which I will try to reach it, called Report on the Class Trip. And as Jason mentioned, I grew up in Jacksonville, Florida. The water there did, in fact, taste like rotten eggs, unless it went through the city system.
Chris, a little louder.
Okay.
I can't hear you.
All right. I hope it's okay. Report on the class trip. The firemen led us in name order up the tower where we watched the flames and the combustible pines. This made us thirsty, so the firemen brought out a hose and we drank water that tasted like rotten eggs. I went looking for the bathroom behind the rows of rubber overcoats and found where the firemen slept. Above the bunks, rows of unstapled centerfolds opened their blouses. Ruddy breasts rolled out like fire trucks. I felt the burn of embarrassment. The girls hadn't started to develop. I still swam nude with boys at the Y. On the way back to school, our teacher, 40-ish, her hair like charcoal and ash, directed the class to a charred patch. Firemen try, but they can't stop every fire. We jostled each other and giggled. The bus smelled of smoke and sweat. The references in this next poem come from Cymbeline. I can always speak so loudly, I think. Except with you, yes. So, if you're not familiar with the play, you just have to guess here. What chimney sweepers come to. In the restaurant, a table over, the actors were griping about Cloten's corpse. Imogene said it was killing her lines, not to mention she had once tripped over it. It was clumsy the way props always are when they stand in for bodies. If she played it straight, the torso made the audience snicker, but if she camped it up, no one could suspend disbelief, that sort of self-awareness being the antithesis of romance. Guiderius claimed the head was a bigger problem. Women puked their pre-theater sherries when he waved it in the air. It's all misdirection anyway, I said to the girl I brought up from London, trying to disguise my lack of interest in an amble back to our room at the B&B. I had been as churlish as Cloten with her, sleeping with her, talking about everything but us. She must have known my head was someplace else. Sometimes I would have made bets on love. Sometimes I spied on my own body in bed without recognizing myself. It was over between us, but I wanted to keep that particular plot device hidden for a while. So we listened to the actors as I complained about the bard, how phony it was his characters kept pretending to be someone else. This is about a birding trip. I think birders are always telling you how they love to watch the birds. And it's a lot like NASCAR people who go to races and say they don't go there for a crash. They're just there to watch the cars. Watch the birders when a hawk takes out a pigeon. You'll see real enjoyment there. Hawk Mountain. Two couples on a day trip, we trudged the switchback, lugging our sodas and lunches through the fault and fracture of shale, fog wet and slick while the puddles give off puffs of evaporation. Carl sneaks a smoke, anxious among the crowd of birders who clog the safety railing like cruise ship passengers with their battery of optics. They glare at Carl, cupping his light, whose cigarette signals the wrong attitude. The sharp-shinned hawks pass singly, too swift for me to snap more than an absence, and it's not long before Carl begins to see in their passage the jets of the first Gulf War. He leaves with his girlfriend, but we stay to spot raptors shooting the wind gap on wings that flick open like flags in a sudden breeze. A second is all that's allowed to fix on the paws and flap and on the talons, carried up against the sleek underside before the hawks drop below. On the drive back, we talk about life lists, connecting birds with circumstance of place and season, bunnies, iridescent as the Caribbean, the tanager at the hanging feeder, more scarlet than fresh blood on a starched handkerchief, and the osprey in midair, flipping the fish it carried, swallowing it head first while we stayed motionless. This is called wind loss, that is W-I-N-D, loss. After we filed our claim over the phone, the men from the tree service in face masks, like surgeons, came out to clear our fallen black cherry with chainsaws while we went into Philly to drink with Ron, Jan's brother, at the Irish Tappy next to I-95. Still chipper, Ron talked about his second dose of chemo. If it didn't work, they would open them up and scrape out the bad stuff. Great, we said. Though we were thinking about our friend Denise, dead 6 months after she got the diagnosis. Her husband was driving through the national parks, tossing her ashes over the guardrails at scenic overlooks. Whatever Ron wanted to drink came before he could pull out his wallet. Pitchers crowded the table like a forest of stumps. Everyone stood Ron around, but no one went with him when he strolled outside for a smoke. We shouted our best wishes to him in the parking lot, then cleared off. Jan drove as the Golden Oldies station played Steve Miller. Time keeps on slipping, slipping. I have seen the future, she said. Nobody we know is there. This is a poem I wrote after reading about Chinese poets, so you can see the influences. It's called At the Edge of the Parking Lot. When did the mylar balloon snag on the branches of the Norway maple? I've watched it for years from my office window. It's only visible when the leaves drop. The balloon is flat as a mirror. Sunlight has bleached the ribbon that holds it to the tree. I never thought I'd be stuck in this job for so long. I thought I'd retire, go south. Cars glide by like crows. My close-cut hair is as white as the balloon's ribbon. Instead, I might say that we waded a brook next to hemlocks under a royal blue sky shot through with the flat white undercoat of late summer heat, because the urge is always to make dull things shine with significance, just as I might imagine you splashing me, then one of us cupping hands, reaching to offer the other the clear, cold, easy water, though we never enjoyed such a moment, we who have never talked for years. I always wondered what happened to Adam and Eve after they were expelled, sort of trail off. So this is, and of course, many of us trail off as well. So this is called The Old Couple. After the expulsion, their diction slackened. Adam had stayed sharp in his job, brainstorming brand names for animals. Now in retirement, he generalized how people were, what others wanted. Eve, who had debated free will with the devil, contented herself with homilies. It's all for the best, she told Adam, who wasn't listening. The language they used in their former place when each invented word rolled as sweet and fresh as ripened fruit over the sensitive tongue became as mushy as pablum. The only blessing in this indefiniteness was losing the means of describing what was gone. Thank you. I don't know where I am in the time. Don't know if the wooden handle is about to come out and put me on stage, but I have one more poem I will read. This is called Undergrowth. Scrub marked the out of bounds in my development. Balls fouled into snake country were counted lost. Older kids told tales of serpents, muscular as sailors' tattooed arms, secret and fatal under the palmetto. One strike could snap your leg. In the paralysis of a nightmare, I watched as the diamondback slid across my slackened limbs, his slit eye possessing my eye, his mouth gaping to show stiff fangs. Only the grind of the bulldozers crushing the wetlands and the fairway roused me from that poisoned sleep. Dad paid greenbacks for our house. I dressed in wingtips and carried irons. One night at the club's curved exit, a rattler slid across my beams, his belly rubbing the asphalt heat. The long god had waited for me at the edge of the trimmed lawn, his sharp head full of familiar venom. When I rode my sedan across his back, he thumped like a ripe melon split by a cleaver's stroke to its red pulp. Yet his destruction unmanned me. I dreamed as both snake and sleeper, hands fixed to ribs, legs braided, tongue tasting the night heat. I coiled at the side of the child who listened for any rustling in the bedclothes. I rise before him in my last strength. He wakes to what he must murder.